thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, you guys. It is Thursday, January 29th. And today is a National Puzzle Day today, you guys.
Puzzling.
Yeah, it's that's funny, Stone.
Puzzle, right?
That's pretty cute, Stone. I like that. That's pretty witty right there, buddy. Pretty witty. Buddy. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna love this one. It's National Corn Chip Day. Shout out to Fritos.
There you go. Good salsa.
Potato pie.
Mm-hmm. Do you think corn chips are better than other chips?
What do you mean by better? Better tasting, better for you?
It's just better. It's better. Just better in general.
They're better at not having gluten.
They're better at not having gluten.
I mean, that much said, they probably still do have gluten, but they're better at it.
Said the person with the gluten allergy, right? You have a gluten allergy, Nate?
No, although just in general, you probably should stay away from eating a lot of stuff that just happens to have gluten in it, right?
Why?
A lot of grains, well, I mean, depends. I mean, to each his own.
Oh, you're saying,
calories, but this is more a statement on how just eating lean meat and vegetables is probably choice.
You're saying this because of the recent turning upside down of the food pyramid, I imagine.
I actually didn't. That was not inspired by that, but I know what you're talking about. I did see that reported upon, and I do like that. I mean, in talking to you too, Jason, somebody who's also mindful about what they eat.
Yeah.
I like that that's being brought more to light. And as somebody who was taught back in the day,
did you see
with the old school food pyramid? Yeah, this is definitely something that has the potential to lead to better health. And I want a healthier America, don't you? Don't you guys?
Of course. The question is did you see the South Park episode or the South Park video when they turned the food pyramid upside down?
I want to say yes, but it's been so long. I'm just actually.
What do you mean so long? It hasn't been that long.
Well, I just restarted all of my South Park watching, and
this was on social media
from the early seasons.
This was on social media. I don't even know if it was on an episode.
All right, maybe I'm misremembering then. I mean, we're gonna have to do a South Park marathon. Clearly, bro.
It was so good. It was so good. Gabriel, X has not started yet. Just as a heads up, just so you know, we have not started X yet for some reason, but it's all right. But anyways, that's all the days that we have. And thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome everyone join us from any one of those platforms. And man, you guys, man. Brazil, where they say muito prazer and obrigado, you know what I'm saying? And we're always on the look for BOAs, approves a licensed medical cannabis cultivation for the first time and expands patient access to cannabis treatments. Man, it's going to be turning up in Brazil. Brazil's National Health Agency, Anvisa, has given approval to sweeping new rules that, for the first time in the nation's history, allow the cultivation of cannabis within the country for pharmaceutical and scientific purposes, while also expanding access to cannabis-based treatments for patients. The decision by Anvisa follows a rule by the Superior Court of Justice ordering the federal government to establish clear regulations for cannabis cultivation, strictly for medical and pharmaceutical use, and adult use of cannabis remains illegal. Until now, a lack of formal regulations had created a patchwork system in which some patients and associations were able to grow cannabis only after obtaining court authorization, leading to widespread legal uncertainty. But under a new framework, Anvisa created 3 separate regulatory pathways. One allows companies to cultivate cannabis in secure, controlled environments with plants limited to a maximum THC concentration of 0.3%. Another establishes rules for scientific research, allowing cultivation without THC limits and granting authorization to institutions rather than individual research projects. And a third introduces an experimental model for patient associations, which will be selected through a public call and supervised directly by the agency. Anvisa also revised its broader rules for cannabis-based products, and the changes expand approved methods of use to include buccal, sublingual, and dermatological applications. In addition to the oral and inhaled routes already allowed, pharmacies will now be allowed to compound cannabis-based products on an individual prescription basis, and eligibility for higher THC therapies has been expanded beyond palliative care to include patients with severe, chronic, and debilitating conditions. Emilio Nabayas Federigo, a drug policy attorney who has been a key legal advocate for medical cannabis in Brazil, called the move positive, historic, and innovative, particularly because it formally recognizes patient associations within the regulatory structure. There were a joint effort by social movements, the regulatory agency, and the government to create a viable path for these institutions, he said. Figueiredo noted that the roughly 350 cannabis patient associations in Brazil, only about 25 previously had court authorization to cultivate cannabis, underscoring the level of legal uncertainty that existed. Well, look at this. It's going to be a party in Brazil at this next Mardi Gras. I can't wait to check this out and hear what you guys have to say about this.
Toothpaste is clearly out of the tube. Yeah. They still got, it's hemp.
Yeah.
0.3%. Come on, man. You haven't seen all the nonsense we've run into in the United States trying to separate those two out. It's just, but it's good to see that they allow these associations to grow real weed and not hemp they're trying to pass off as weed.
Interesting. Okay, so apparently the X feed isn't going to start until 9:30, so there's probably going to be a delay for anybody on that. Just so you know, we apologize. We'll be better tomorrow. It's all good. But
the compounding aspect is interesting.
Right.
It means so that's one thing that stood out to me right there was the notion that we're going to be going for a compounding approach for products, which honestly isn't a bad idea if you are in a manufacturing type environment anyway for cannabis. I mean, you're basically compounding it there anyway, right?
Yep.
You take, what can you do with cannabis distillate, which for the listeners, essentially pure THC oil. It's kind of like an ultra thick oil, so thick that you could turn the jar over and come back an hour later and it might not have come out of the jar at all. It's thick. So with this kind of stuff, what can you do with it? You could mix it into a base for a transdermal, and you could make like a pain cream. You could mix it potentially in, you could put it directly with either flavoring or without into a cartridge, and it's a smokable, not maybe the best smokable, but it's there. Or you could potentially make it into various types of edibles or drinks or stuff like that. It's really interesting when you mention compounding, because there's a lot of other regulations that come around compounding. One of the easiest things to use to compound cannabis into other products is ethanol, which is alcohol, right? So is cannabis and alcohol legal? You know the answer here in the US.
Yep.
What are they going to do there? It just, kind of sparked all these ideas.
Interesting. And I think this is going to be really interesting. Latin America, you know what I mean? We just
doing it.
Yeah, we are definitely doing it. We are definitely doing it. It's all about that hemispheric dominance going on over here, and this is just the fact that they mirrored the hemp program. I think is very, very interesting, and the fact that they're allowing for the doctors to be able to have unregulated cannabis in the sense of where there's no THC limits imposed whatsoever. I think that they're going to be able to do some really good research down there. I know I've been to Brazil before, and I've talked with a few doctors in regards with this space, and they've always had a fairly active hemp program overall. But to see this, I think this is going to be a really big thing in Brazil. They got a great climate for this out there.
Yeah.
Oh, bro.
I agree. I think they're regulating reality instead of acting like the patients don't exist, which I feel like is what a lot of the states do here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Or that medical is a scam. And it doesn't have that medical value. Everyone's just wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah, I got toenail fungus. I want to smoke weed. And that's not my experience with this. And I think Nate's right. We need these compounding pharmacists or physicians to work together to see if they can make products that can be more directed towards people's symptoms. Because just smoking weed may help you with seizures. But if you can put together compounds that are directed to like seizures or to IBS or things like that, and then be able to have experience that you can take to other places and show this is how we mix it. This is why we do it this way. These are our results in controlled studies. Will you please get your head out of your ass and pay attention to this as a real medicinal product instead of castigating us, a bunch of hippies trying to smoke weed.
Yeah, fair. And oh man, Brazil, man, it's such a great place. When I saw this story, I was like, oh, this is really, really, really good. This is going to be great. And now hopefully maybe they'll get some good trees out there. I know out there in the favela, they had just a whole bunch of bammer weed out there and not a lot of green weed. So hopefully some of this will seep out of this research facility into the, you know what I'm saying, over into the beach area where all the tourists are at, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it'll be disguised as THCA. You know what I'm saying?
Anybody, how about this? And I don't want to, extend, it might be a story that's already done too badly, but is anybody familiar with any of the laws or agreements that are emerging as far as South American countries trading cannabis with one another? Reason I ask is because Colombia, it's been known in the industry for a good minute, is kind of setting itself up to be the major international export center of cannabis. At least that's been their attempt for a number of years now. And it looks like for the most part, it's moving forward. I mean, I have several friends, Jason, same friend circle, right? We have several friends that have been dabbling out there already and looking at what's out there. Just recently, we've done stories too that include cannabis tourism that's starting to grow and actually take root in Colombia, which I wish they could tell us how that's done, because I would love to see that out here. With that much said, I'm wondering if, as they continue, are we looking now at so here, super quick sidetrack. But if we did things right here in the U.S., like if we actually looked at what grew where, we would find out that there are certain genetics and certain uses of cannabis that you would essentially spread all over the country. Certain areas, certain genetics would grow great in here outdoors. Other areas, certain genetics, because of outdoor conditions, would grow great here indoors. And if we had the ability to just spread this across a logical map with cannabis, we could accomplish so much. So then enter Southern Hemisphere.
I'm with
right?
it, but you know what? I'm going to say it straight up.
Are they going to be able to do that?
I would imagine that their health ministry would be able to do something like that, but I hope that they don't, because I don't want to see Colombian weed in Brazil. I want to see Brazilian weed and Brazilian infrastructure and Brazilian jobs and Viva Brazil. And what I really even want to see is I want to see Brazilian CBD patches on the Brazilian soccer team at the next World Cup. That's what I want to see.
You know, that's keeping a certain terroir, like what they consider it, right? In a certain area.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get champagne outside the Champagne region of France, for instance, and so forth.
That's what I want to see. That's what I'm hopeful to see out of this project. I want to see.
I hate to agree with you, bro, but that's super valid.
I love when people hate to agree with me. You know what I'm saying? It's the beacon of truth over here, Dale. You know what I'm saying? And on that, we're gonna roll into our first commercial, and we're gonna be right back. And we are back. We are back, you guys. You got to be faster with those sound bites, Nate. Got to be.
I know it, man. I know it.
Got to be quick.
Next time,
we'll get you there. But I do want to say real quick a big weed for the people and a congratulations to Catalyst, who is one of our sponsors here at High at 9 News. They had just announced that they are going to be taking over Planet 13 in Santa Ana. And so I guess even when you're the biggest behemoth in the retail space as Planet 13, you're not subject to losing operational. And congratulations to Catalyst and all the team over there. And I can't wait to go and check it out once they I imagine they're going to paint that big red ball blue, and then they're going to have a blue ball outside. You know what I'm saying? We're going to see. We're going to see. But on that, we're going to go right into the Missouri House Committee unanimously advances a bill to move intoxicating hemp products into a licensed dispensaries, you guys. That's right. A Missouri House Committee voted 11-0 today to advance House Bill 2641, a proposal that would dramatically reshape how intoxicating hemp-derived products are treated under state law by classifying them as marijuana and placing them under the state's existing dispensary system. If approved by the legislature, the bill would require products such as Delta 8 THC, Delta 10 THC, THCO, and HHC, and other synthesized and converted cannabinoids to be sold only through Missouri's licensed marijuana facilities rather than gas stations, smoke shops, CBD stores, and online retailers. Under the proposal, any hemp-derived product capable of producing intoxicating effects would be legally treated as marijuana, and the cultivation, manufacturing, testing, transportation, and retail sale of these products would be limited to businesses licensed under Article 14, and they did Article XIV, that's how I knew it was 14, of the Missouri Constitution, the same framework that governs medical and adult use cannabis. The bill also creates significant penalties for violations, and businesses that continue selling intoxicating hemp products outside the licensed marijuana system would face a $5,000 fine per transaction and a Class D felony charge. The Missouri Attorney General would be given primary enforcement authority, working alongside the Highway Patrol and other state agencies. And in addition to targeting the intoxicating hemp market, the legislation includes new privacy protections for medical cannabis patients. State agencies would be barred from sharing patient and caregiver registry information with the federal government and unauthorized third parties unless compelled by subpoena or court order, and violations of the provision would be classified as a Class E, as an ecstasy felony. The measure would also allow consumers to request that dispensaries not create or retain records containing their identifying information, adding an additional layer of privacy for those purchasing marijuana products. The section regulating hemp-derived cannabinoid products would only take effect once there's a change in federal law, which is set to happen late this year. And when this happens, Missouri's framework would automatically shift these products into the state's marijuana regulatory system. And today's committee vote moves the measure closer to a vote by the full House of Representatives, you guys. Wow, wow, wow. Missouri, right next to Mr. Stone Slade out there, is talking about moving all of the hemp Delta 8 products, Stone Slade, to dispensaries. And you're going to have to go there to go buy them pretty soon when you're in Missouri next time.
You're killing me. First of all, Missouri is not right next to Stone Slade.
You're closer than I am, Stone.
They're Delta 8 products. So there's that.
What about HHO?
I mean, what do you think, Jason? I think this is relatively a good thing, no?
I think, you know what? I think, I'm not necessarily, I think hemp products should be able to be sold everywhere. I don't really have a problem with that. The funny thing about this is obviously the beverage industry hasn't started lobbying on this, because I didn't see a carve out for beverages for those to still be sold at major retailers. So I wonder if Total Wine and Spirits and Circle K and these other different retailers and whatnot are going to get involved and try to stifle this legislation. But I think the best part about it is not the fact that they're putting the hemp products into the regulated market. I think the best part about this is the personal protections for people that are purchasing cannabis. I'm all for all of that. If they took out the whole part about putting the hemp products in the cannabis dispensaries and just had that all by itself on a standalone bill, I would totally support that every which way. And yesterday, I would totally be with that.
Sounds like Missouri has their eyes open, looking around the country, and where places like California, other states have just totally screwed the pooch on this thing. Because if you use an expansive language like intoxicating hemp products, okay, THC and intoxicating hemp products, that captures what we used to know back in my day. If you smoke and it doesn't get you high, it's hemp. Okay. Like, let's not make this too complicated here. So the attorneys can get in this and screw it all up. If it doesn't get you high, you should be able to sell it wherever you want. It doesn't really matter. I really don't understand if they have enough dispensaries, if you will, in Missouri to actually accommodate people who want this. That would be sort of an impediment or a place where you could get stuck. Because people clearly want this. If you can get it at the Stop and Rob while you're getting gas, okay, people wanted that. That's what we found out from all around the country where hemp just exploded. Yeah. And if you're going to put this into those dispensaries, make sure there's enough people can actually get what they want. That's been a problem every place I've seen where they've tried to make marijuana legal. There just isn't enough outlets. I mean, for instance, in LA, there were 1,400 dispensaries under the old 420 model. Yep. And when they opened up, there weren't that many in the whole goddamn state. Yeah. You're thinking, you guys, you have your head up your ass so far you can't see the reality here. They're like an ostrich. Open this up and let people get what they want. If you want to do this distinction, I mean, it takes a teenager 5 minutes to figure out, is it weed or is it hemp? I'll take a couple hits and throw it in the trash if it's ditch weed. That's what we did. Shit. It's not rocket science.
Very, very true. What do you think about this, Nate? Are you gonna, you know what I'm saying? What do you think about this? I mean, you don't really have a direction. You don't have a dog in the fight.
It's, only that it seems like a potentially very good case study of when places like California do decide to get their act straight. This is going to be what they should have done, which obviously doesn't change a lot of the pain and destruction that the current misguided state system may have left in its wake, but at least provides some trajectory for healing and making things right, which, the long-term, worldly side of me wants to suggest that maybe that was always part of the deal. I wasn't around for when alcohol legalization and regulation came in, and for when they finally told people you're not allowed to put methanol in there, that can kill people.
Well, so meth is bad, bro. For those. Meth is bad. Meth is bad.
Methanol.
Meth is bad.
I don't know how serious of a conversation I'm about to have right here. I'm referring to, say, byproduct of the alcohol fermentation process, which could hurt you. And thank goodness for all of the drinkers out there that there is a level of regulation that keeps inadvertent contamination from other byproducts out of the process. You could make and say something analogous to that with cannabis and cannabis regulation as well. So with that much said, yeah, methanol is bad, and yeah, methamphetamines.
I try to stay away from anything.
Not that you should confuse those two, but
anything
in these cases, both bad.
Anything meth related, I just try to stay away from. I just feel like anytime you put those 4-letter words together, nothing is good, even if they try to make it sound good. You know what I mean? Stay away from that Vicks Vapo rub.
I don't know, man. I kind of disagree. I just yesterday I introduced my 9-year-old to Method Man, and he actually liked him quite a bit. He's a fantastic rapper.
I would stay away from that one too.
So, just putting it out there.
Oh man, this was fun. This was a fun story.
You might want to watch YouTube on chemistry there, Jason.
Oh, I know all about.
It's out there.
Dale, I grew up in a trailer park, so I know all about chemistry. We used to have sheds and stuff like that, and you know what I mean. And the people, you had bathtubs, and I'm very, very familiar with chemistry. Yeah. Very familiar.
Well, I took organic chemistry, and the two are not the same.
I took horticulture class in 7th grade. We had a greenhouse. Oh. You know what we put in our greenhouse? That's right. You know we did. The teachers were pissed. We did it, Stone. I promise you, we did it, bro. It was such a riot when they finally realized when they finally realized what it was, Stone. But
that's awesome.
But nonetheless, we're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. But he is blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, they're nasty, and they turn your teeth yellow and other things yellow, Stone. But he is honest, and he's unconcerned with public opinions, your opinion, and anyone else that wants to identify as anything else, especially a furry creature's opinion. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, is none other your favorite Tio Loco. And you can now find him at his own law office, at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. It's your favorite Tio Loco and Jason's favorite.
Yeah.
Leviticus.
Yeah.
You can't laugh at yourself. Life's going to be real hard on you.
Exactly.
Okay. My story this morning comes out of Marijuana Moment from yesterday. Kyle Yeager wrote it. It involves Matt Gaetz and the expeditious process to get to Schedule 3. Headline is DEA is drafting rule to reschedule marijuana ASAP. Trump's first pick for Attorney General says. Now, I don't know Kyle, but when you don't use the guy's name, but you call him Trump's first pick for Attorney General, I'm questioning where we're going with this from the gate. I don't know Matt personally. Jason, I think you
I do. Love that guy.
And he has been an advocate for stop this nonsense. Let's stop treating marijuana the way it is. And I'm on board for that. Okay. Matt, according to this story, and I did see the text he sent out or whatever that he sent out on X or whatever it was, that Friday we're going to get a rule. Okay. And I thought, okay, well, that sounds good, except that you tell me something in the past that didn't turn out to be true. Now I'm skeptical. I've been skeptical about this. And one of the problems I have about this is that Kyle keeps mentioning that there's an appeal process going on right now. Now, I must say, I have not seen any documents that would, in my mind, be an appeal from some rule they already made. I don't know if they've already done this. But there are layers of process here that are just very frustrating to me. And if you make a rule, now there is an entire process, give comment on the rule, okay? And then once the rule takes effect, there's an entire process to challenge the rule. So I don't believe we've even started that process yet, but it is possible. What I will say, if Smart and Kevin Sabet will spend $1.5 million in Massachusetts to try and undo adult use, you can bet your ass they're going to throw money at stopping or tripping this up or slowing this up every step along the way.
Yep.
Now, that's the skeptical part of me. And as I've said before, I would hope that Trump, with his impatience for bullshit, Well, set them down and go, okay, we're going to truncate this. We have all the information we need, start this process, and we give it only the time we need for someone to say something, and then say, are you done? Yeah, you're done. Shut up. All right, we're going to the next phase, and let's get this thing over with. Because there is a clock ticking here. And most of us around in and around the cannabis industry are scratching our head wondering, where in the hell are we going to be at the end of this year when the last spending provision, which took away intoxicating hemp products, is going to actually come to fruition? I doubt we're going to get there because there's going to be a lot of pressure to try and fix this thing. This is just one part of that process. And I must say I'm hopeful, but I'm a bit skeptical that they're actually going to get this thing through with any degree of alacrity, because there are enough places where attorneys can gum up the works here that, you know, I'm going to channel George Carlin. I'm going to sit up here at 30,000 feet and eat my popcorn and watch the owners of this country battle it out as to who's actually going to win here. The rest of us are going to take it in the shorts and lose. We don't get this thing figured out. Throw it back to you guys for your comment. What do you think?
Well, first of all, shout out to Matt Gaetz. Much love. I wish he would have actually mentioned him. I'm with you on that. I kind of little, you know what I mean? Not surprised that he would refer to him in that way, though. You know, this is kind of what these liberals do and whatnot. So not surprised by that at all whatsoever. But what I will say in regards with this is I hope that you guys check out the Matt Gaetz show, as I was on his show talking in relation to this last Friday. And so I hope you will check that out. That's available on One American News Network. Check that out. But Matt's my guy, and Pam is from Florida too. I just wish that the administration would just hurry up and fire her and put Matt in there, and we'd be able to get moving along this a lot faster. You know, I don't know if he's trying to throw some cover up for Pam or whatnot, but the reality is the president gave her a deadline of January 31st, and that's Saturday, and I don't see an announcement coming by Saturday. So she's late, real late. And the president does not like lateness, because if you have ever read his book and you know about his construction and building and whatnot, he always tried to be early and under budget, and that's how he defined efficiency, and that is exactly what he is doing for this country, bringing it back and making it great again.
Under budget? Oh, never mind. I'm not even going to go. I just want to say rescheduling ASAP only matters if it actually happens. And cannabis reform under Trump still feels like a headline chasing policy, and the clock is doing most of the talking. So that's more of the same. More of the same.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'd rather have the clock talking than who was talking in the previous administration. You see how I did that? I did that kind of like how what Kyle Yeager did the previous administration. See that? Just saying. He's getting stuff done. We got, you know what I'm saying? Coming up next, we got these ads that are airing on Fox that are telling people, hey, fall in line with the Schedule 3 agenda, you guys. It's Trump's telling them, hey, if you want to keep your seat in the midterms, you better fall in line. And I imagine that's going to play out well for our hemp farmers coming up with this new rendition of the Farm Bill, too, because I know he's not going to want a lot of any of that prohibitionist rhetoric tied up in there, like how they managed to weasel it in this new budgetary amendment. Just saying.
Signed the bill, though.
He had to open up the government. You can't hold the rest of the government up just because of cannabis. Cannabis ain't that strong of a lobby, Dale.
I'm just saying he signed the bill.
Of course he did. But he also signed the 2018 Farm Bill and wanted it in there. So, you know,
you're reading a little too much into what he does.
I read the weed leaves and the tea leaves all the time, Dale.
Yeah, I understand, but Nostradamus, you're not.
Stone. When I read the weed leaves and the tea leaves, I'm a big fan of those leaves. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I'll give you that.
I figured you would like that one, Stone. I figured you would like that. But Nate, any thoughts on this, Nate?
Not especially. Progress for cannabis in any form is welcomed.
Yeah.
I could sum up anything, and I mean, yeah, sure. I'm glad your team brought it up, but honestly, you know, a win is a win in my book, and hopefully, this is one of the few areas where the billionaire class and the working class are on the same page about something, and that seems like a surefire way to move it across. If we can just let, you know, fundamental Christians tap them twice on the shoulder and tell them this actually is pretty good for society, I think we'll be able to move this right the F through.
I'm going to be straight up with you, Nate. You know, the reality of it is this: is any fundamental Christians that wants to try to say anything bad about cannabis needs to go back and read Genesis 1:29 straight up. Okay, they need to go back and get into their word and get in.
I would
you know what I'm saying?
Not only love to see you do a broadcast dedicated to that last thought. You can absolutely count me as a guest on that.
I'm 100% down to me and Jesse Barney are supposed to do that, and there's a couple other verses that he wanted to bring in relation to that kind of go over that, and ultimately we will be doing that. When it happens, I'm not sure, but there definitely is going to be, you know what I'm saying, would Jesus smoke this tree episode, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Special report.
You like that one?
We got to we'll do it on the Sabbath.
Yeah. What would Jesus smoke? And I'll tell you right now, it would be OG Kush, because he was the biggest OG to ever walk the planet. You know what I'm saying?
I think, you know, if in the contemporary version of Jesus, I think he would smoke all strains. I don't think he would love one strain more than another. I think he would understand the beauty in all of God's creations.
No. He'd be like, those are good for those people. Those are good for those people. Those are good for those people over there, and those are good for those people over there. And I'm smoking the OG, and we're rolling it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Are you a cannabis segregationalist?
100%. 100%. I'm a cannabis segregationist. 100%. I don't like to mix weed. I like to taste the purity of the plant. You know what I mean? I don't like to.
I know one thing for sure. He smoked outdoor.
Well, I did. I have smoked outdoor. That's true. There is some good outdoor, but generally the only time. Stop it. Jesus probably did smoke it. That's fair. That's a fair point. It's a fair point, Stone. Fair point. I see what you did there. That's cute. That's cute.
They didn't have indoor in those days. Come on, dude.
I mean, but they did have cave weed. They did have cave weed. You know what I'm saying? And they would light it. And they would light it by the fire.
That they could set up and take down for lighting. I see where you're going with this.
Yep. Just saying. Well, on that, we're going to roll into these commercials that are now appearing on Fox News, and that are basically telling Pam Bondi to get her rear in gear.
Rescheduling cannabis, which was classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. Trump's action will destroy the cartel's illicit black market, expand medical research, and ensure seniors and veterans safely receive the care they need. Thank President Trump for delivering on another America First promise.
Yeah, and we're back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And please remember to make sure that you're following us on X and Rumble, as those are the most stable platforms in the metaverse.
Under President Trump, America is back. Trump's delivered the largest tax cut in history, putting more money in our pockets and restored America's economic dominance. Promises made, promises kept. Now it's time to fulfill another promise from President Trump and reschedule cannabis, which supports over 400,000 jobs and creates billions of dollars in economic growth. Reschedule cannabis and stack another win, Mr. President. America First Agriculture Action Inc. is responsible for the contents of this advertising.
Man, that's very, very, very funny, Dale. That's
channeling George Carlin, so I'm funny as hell, right?
You definitely are the George Carlin of the High Nine News, without a doubt, and your lazy boy. I'm about that life. And speaking of not so lazy boys, we're gonna roll right into Mr. Stone Slade. He's out there in the great red state of Texas, in the bluest lagoon known as Austin. He has great hair. He has great style. And he rolls up his hemp Delta 8 cigarettes in his sleeve like an old pack of Marlboros. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Stone Slade.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, we love you, Stone. You're always a good sport, bro. You're always a good sport, bro.
Yeah. Gotta be a good sport, don't you?
That's right. All right. I like that picture.
Recap.
I like your picture in your background.
Champs in Austin.
Did you paint that, Stone? The shoot 'em up bang bang, yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you. That's,
thanks.
dude, that's great. You're gonna have to send me one of those, Stone.
You want to? I'll send you one of those.
Yeah, I need an original Stone Slade. You know what I'm saying? At the crib. You know what I mean?
I'm working on it. That one's it's a work in progress.
All right.
Come on,
all right.
I got to share some news here.
All right, go
Come
ahead. Sorry, buddy.
on.
When I spot talent, I can't help it.
Thanks, buddy. When Champs returned to Austin just months after its first visit, it didn't slip quietly back onto the calendar. It came back louder, more confident, and into a city ready to treat the moment like something worth celebrating. This was not just another trade show stop. Champs Week turned into something much bigger than the convention floor. From downtown 6th Street to Glass Studios up north, the cannabis community turned the week into a citywide statement. Austin did not just host Champs, Austin showed up. Before comedy clubs filled and torches lit up across the city, the week started on a quieter note. Blaze Magazine hosted a winner's mixer at the Shiner Saloon, bringing together growers, judges, media, and friends, the community to recognize winners of their Blazed Flower Challenge. The night was less about show and more about connection. Conversations flowed easily, introductions turned into reunions, and the tone for the week ahead was clear. This was about to be a local first, community-driven, and rooted in respect for the people pushing Texas cannabis forward. From there, Austin took over. The official kickoff came down when Grow House Media hosted the Puffs and Punchlines Champs welcome party at the Vulcan Gas Company on historic 6th Street. More than 300 people packed the venue for a comedy lineup headlined by Kill Tony regulars Hans Kim and Matt Edgar. The room was loud, loose, and unmistakably filled with cannabis smoke right in the heart of downtown Austin. It was an incredible night. It was funny. It turned out to be really surreal. Watching a packed 6th Street crowd openly celebrate cannabis culture was a reminder of how far the local scene has come. When the laughs wrapped up, the party headed out north. The Glassmith is another Austin original venue. It's a living snapshot of cannabis culture in the city. The space has a dispensary in the front, followed by an outdoor courtyard along the side and behind it. Then there's a building in the back where a lounge wraps around a bar with comfortable seating. A glass window separates the bar from working studios where artists are shaping pieces in real time. Despite the cold night, the place was packed. Glass blowers worked behind the scenes, preparing for the Glassman standing competition scheduled for the following evening. There was a tattoo set up. People were getting in there. Dabs flowed freely, thanks to Index Labs and their signature briefcase rig. It felt less like an after party and more like a gathering point for culture itself. If night one was about celebration, day two was about the proof. Grow House Media returned to 6th Street with the Texas Flower Challenge at Maggie Mae's, placing Texas-grown flower front and center in downtown Austin. 14 judges evaluated 13 strains, all grown by Texas cultivators. The quality spoke for itself. The top 3 places went to Jeremy Green's Easy Greens, and taking home number 1 was Raw Gas Company with their Animal Mint strain. The competition was incredibly close. The top 3 were separated by less than a point. Sitting inside Maggie Mae's, openly smoking and judging in a cannabis contest in downtown Austin, it was impossible not to reflect on how far things have come. Huge credit goes out to Liz and Patrick at Grow House Media for continuing to push the limits of what's possible in Texas cannabis. Day 3 closed out in North Austin at the Green Room, where the Glassman standing competition reached its finale. Under strict rules of 20 minutes and only 3 tools, Fargo Flameworks took the win. The night blended glass competition and comedy one last time, sending Champs out on a high note. Now, compared to last October, the Champs show, I felt like this was a little bit bigger booths, larger setups, more ambitious, and the energy across the city was definitely even more confident. More importantly, the after parties were not the side events, they were the event. Each night was packed with local Austinites alongside visitors from across the country. Growers, glass artists, media, fans moved through the city together, turning Austin into a living extension of the Champs floor. Austin showed exactly why it mattered, man. It was a good week, proved anything. If anything, the Texas cannabis culture is not waiting for permission. It's building community in real time, one packed room at a time. I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
Stone Slade, this sounds like a big old, you know what I'm saying, a hooting and a hollering, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, hootenanny out there. And how many pairs
Holy
of
crap. If I ever throw an event, can you do the entertainment reporting for me, man? That would be, I would really appreciate it. That was,
we can do it,
man.
Send
You
me
just
what you need. I'll get it done.
How many
mainlined FOMO right there into my veins, man? Like that was crazy. I wish I was there.
The scene is crazy, man. I'm blown away. You know, lived outside of the city for the last 10 years. I just moved back downtown about 6 months ago, and I would come to Austin to get on the airplane and go to other states and, you know, go have fun. Blown away at what the Austin scene is doing right now. The bar, you can walk into these bars in downtown 6th Street, and it's a mixture of alcohol and cannabis, and it's all perfectly legal. I love it.
Was there a cowboy boot mandate dress code?
No cowboy boot, man. There's a lot less cowboy boots than one would think. Nobody rode their horse into town. It's 2026.
If I would have came to this, Stone, I would have rode a horse in.
I would have loved to have seen that.
I would have done that.
To see that.
So I would have done that.
Next time you come to Austin, you got to come in further to town than just the airport. Hotel.
It was a quickie.
Come on into the Blue City. You'll be safe. You can wear cowboy boots in case you don't step in anything.
It was a quick
we'll
trip.
Take care of you.
I'm with this. I would love to. I would love to come and check out this brand. We love the guys over there at Blaze Magazine. They do a great job with everything they do. This sounds like a fantastic event. I'm sad I missed it. My real question for you though, Stone, is were you one of the judges of this flower competition?
Why do you want to know that, Jason?
It's inquiring minds want to know. To me, that's the most important question of this whole story, Stone.
Yes, I was.
You were. Look at that. Look at that. See,
I was.
He was a judge. Were you paid off?
I did that. No, listen, Jason, I was paid nothing. It was a well-judged competition. I got to tell you, it was well put on event. Another well put on event by Grow House Media.
Mm-hmm.
Liz and Patrick are absolutely killing it in that area. Their events, every one of their events just gets better and better.
Much love to Liz and Patrick too.
I'm going to be doing some video projects with Patrick coming up in the near future. So
nice.
Stoked on those guys.
Nice. Dale, what do you think about this?
Sounds like Austin is like San Francisco used to be back in the day in California's cannabis chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you guys. Tell them to kiss your ass. We're going to do what we want. And if Texas stands for anything, it stands for freedom.
Yep.
Get out of our business. We ain't hurting nobody. Leave us alone.
Yep. It also, you know what else they got a lot in Texas? A lot of tumbleweed. And so how much of that tumbleweed did you have to smoke, Stone?
Here's the thing too, is it's legal to smoke the tumbleweed. So it's also BYOB. So smoking whatever you want to smoke.
I would love to make a trip out to Austin in the near future. I think that would be fun. That would, you know what I'm saying? I'd probably have to stay on the outskirts, you know what I'm saying? Stay in a red space, so then that way in a red hotel, so then that way I can know that I was going to be safe and not like vandalized or victimized or whatnot.
Get out of here!
You know what I'm saying?
You lived in LA, bro. Come on.
I know.
Get out of town.
Not anymore. Now I live in the reddest place in California, in Orange County. Thank God. Somewhere where they actually fight crime.
Just fine.
And you know what? You know what we don't have here, Stone?
Oh boy, what?
We don't have potholes in our streets. My car thanks me every day. That we're not there anymore.
We got good streets.
Well, see,
what he doesn't say at the same time is that's got to be one of the least populated per cities, counties in all of California for dispensaries. There's Santa Ana and
Costa Mesa.
Where else?
I'm
Costa
fine with
Mesa.
that. I don't need a dispensaries.
42 other cities with nothing.
That doesn't matter to me at all. You know what that means? I mean, that's actually better. Actually, Nate, I view that as a plus and an opportunity. So then that way I can talk to these cities and get to implement strategic plans to help better their communities. Okay, and then we're right in there. Okay, I look at that as an opportunity as opposed to a deterrent, Nate. That's the difference.
That's what they call polishing a turd, Nate.
Yeah, Dale, you pointed out earlier in the cast that, and I don't know if it was exactly the point, but it certainly surrounded it that the largest factor in people being able to enjoy cannabis is accessibility. Mm-hmm. And that's been proven time and time again. Like that's a thing, man.
I've never had an issue with that though, Nate. I've never had an issue. Not in any days of my life have I ever had that issue.
You could say that there are your neighbors who maybe think just like you and wish things could be different.
But I will say
there's this inbuilt disagreement within areas that live like that, where on one hand, of course, everyone likes cannabis. On the other hand, you got to have, conservatives got a conservative,
Nate, I will say this, in regards with you mentioning the access, I will say this. I've never had a problem with access at all in my entire life. But, for a number of years, there were a number of people that would have problems of access because of me. And like I can't tell you how many times I told people that I was 5 minutes away when I was really hours away.
Yeah, I was.
Stone knows exactly what.
Yeah, I know how it is.
That's just the classic.
You got to keep them. You got to keep them on the hook.
And I'll be there when I'm going to be there.
You got to keep them on the hook. Hey, I can't teleport yet. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully one day soon. You know what I mean? All of a sudden,
tell them I just started a movie without saying I just started a movie.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, on that, this was a great story, Stone. Thank you for covering this, and much love to everyone out there in the great red state of Texas and blue lagoon of Austin. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna roll right into our final commercial, and we are gonna be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and we are back, and we're going to roll right into Mr. Nate Winokur. He was unjustly persecuted by the DCC in California and forced to give up his business for no real reason other than the vengefulness of the agents at the DCC with no just cause. And so now Nate is forced to be out on the streets educating the public on the nuances of testing and in your homes with his new series, Teaching Bud, that you can find online. Not just today, but every day. It is none other than Mr. Nate Winokur.
Appreciate the intro. Although I would say I really do enjoy the format change to education. Testing is, a thing that the industry, of course, needs, but it's boring. You're not really able to make a difference. And even if you're able to make a difference with honesty and truth, no one wants to use your services because they're telling you that you're basically telling them that their potency is lower than other people and that their stuff with pesticides maybe doesn't have pesticides in it at the time when you're printing it. And that's not a very ethical practice. But if you think about it, that's the systemically sick side of what happens when you have a mismanaged cannabis industry. You have an area where people try to take advantage. You have, barely a few steps above what you would consider to be like bootlegging style practices, where people are just considering things as much as possible. Wherever there's an absence of law or regulation or of regulators paying attention, things just turn to a free-for-all, man. It was crazy to get a front row seat to that. It was not in my bingo card. You know what I mean? But that was my own personal bias and what I chose to see and not see at the time. Speaking of biases, today's story comes from Cannabis Health News in the UK. And this is titled, Study Finds Evidence of Reverse Spin Bias in Medical Cannabis Research. A recent peer-reviewed paper has identified a previously unrecognized form of reporting bias that may be skewing how medical cannabis evidence is presented. The paper, published in Research Integrity and Peer Review, introduces the concept of reverse spin bias, a pattern in which authors of systematic reviews discount, downplay, or dismiss beneficial findings about a treatment despite their own evidence showing statistically significant effects. This phenomenon was observed repeatedly in studies on e-cigarettes for smoking cessation and medical cannabis for pain. Traditional spin bias in scientific literature usually refers to cases where authors make non-significant results appear more positive than they are. In contrast, reverse spin bias also happens. It happens when authors undervalue or undermine statistically significant positive outcomes, often without methodological justification. The study was led by Renee O'Leary and colleagues who argue that this type of narrative shift has not been systematically documented before. What does reverse spin bias look like, some ask? The research examined 29 recent systematic reviews on medical cannabis for pain and found that 10 exhibited reverse spin bias. That's huge. In these cases, 1/10 of that would be huge. In these cases, even though the review's own data suggested potential benefit, the authors either stopped short of recommending cannabis, questioned its value, or framed the evidence in a way that overshadowed beneficial results. This includes describing their evidence as inconsistent, or consisting of low-quality studies, or having an insufficient number of primary studies regarding the number. Or excuse me, misspoke. An insufficient number of primary studies, regardless of the actual number, is what I meant to say. Several mechanisms for reverse spin bias were identified in the study, including discounting the evidence, omitting findings, and discrediting primary studies. Other approaches were designed to provoke fear by making claims of unknown, unnamed future harms to dismiss findings of treatment benefit, and language related to risks in conclusions, even where adverse effects data were not part of the review. Crazy. We suspect that reverse spin bias has been a similar function to spin bias as a strategy to improve the chances of publication, the authors write. For medical cannabis, the assumption that cannabis use has only harms in a position held by a number of journals, limiting the dissemination of contradicting evidence. Nobody can quite put it like those Brits. The wider impact of reverse spin bias is as follows. In response to the paper, the UK charity Drug Science highlighted how reverse spin bias could influence broader drug and harm reduction policy debates. Evidence does not simply inform decisions, but legitimizes them, explains Hannah Barrett in a blog for Drug Science. When studies downplay the observed benefits of socially controversial interventions, policy can appear evidence-led while remaining norm-driven. Reverse spin bias may therefore create a feedback loop that reinforces stigma, delays harm reduction, and justifies inaction. Quick step to the side. This is also what can be described as some of the potential harms of AI, as AI will be gathering its information from multiple sources, including not the best ones, and simply stating what has been put out there by a potential dubious source as fact. So when people argue on legitimacy of AIs, this is sort of next dimensional kind of stuff that comes out too. If a publication says something that's not exactly true, and now people are using AI for fact finding, the next step is that illegitimate studies now have the ability to be presented as fact, as given through this next dimension of relaying it to you, the user or the reader. So when you hear certain AI concerns come up, this kind of stuff comes up quite a bit in those areas. So just my kind of 2 cents on that. This is particularly consequential in drug policy contexts where moral narratives have long shaped public discourse. In the context of medical cannabis, failing to clearly report and interpret evidence accurately could delay access to potentially helpful treatment and leave clinicians and patients without a balanced understanding of the research. The authors speculate that reverse spin bias could also be occurring in reviews on other socially contested treatments, such as safe opioid consumption sites or managed alcohol programs. Recognizing this bias is not about advocating for specific treatments, Barnett writes. It is about ensuring that drug policy is shaped by evidence as it exists, not as it is most comfortable to present. Lastly, as reverse spin bias could occur in any context where the review authors favor negative conclusions, the authors say wider investigations of this newly identified phenomenon are needed. Editors and peer reviewers must be alert to discrepancies between the findings of biomedical systematic reviews and the treatment recommendations that their authors endorse, they conclude. While it may seem like a standard task, looking at our example strongly suggests that this critical examination for reporting bias has been all too frequently omitted. By proposing a new term, reverse spin bias, we hope to bring a stronger scrutiny to bear on these instances of reporting bias that are detrimental to evidence-informed clinical practice. Man, I so dislike, as a scientist and somebody who works in the sciences and somebody who feels there's so much more room to clear with future evidence and future science and future fact finding. Man, it irks me to see biases step in. No reporting agency should have a clear bias like that. You could even take it down to every news show. None of them should have a clear bias. Back to you guys.
First of all, just so you know, Nate, there's no such thing as a clear Biden because he's all fogged and confused, just so you know.
Everybody that age is, man.
I don't know about everybody that age. Dale's with it. Dale still got his scruples.
Dale's setting the bar.
Yeah.
Over that bar, you're just calling a spade not a spade.
I disagree with that because I know some 90-year-old men that are still working every day and still with it and like sharp as a tack. So
I'm sharp as a tack.
See, Dale
dull
too.
as hell. This is the reason that we're supposed to have scientific and academic vetting of real research. Mm-hmm. We just haven't had it when it comes to cannabis. Mm-hmm. And I've mentioned before the LaGuardia report after the 37 Tact Act. It said something Anslinger didn't want, so they pulled all their marijuana, and there's a chilling effect. Schafer report, and Nixon said, I don't buy this shit. What are these? It just really got ugly after that. They wouldn't let you research it, so you can't do anything to be positive. Haskin from UCLA, smoking weed safer than breathing air in LA. Oh my God, they shit themselves. How could you say that?
It's true.
We're not going to let you research this anymore. And so that had a very chilling effect. People decided to go study this. But if you go to places like Israel, where they don't have this nonsense, they have actually been looking into this and been honest about what they find and don't find. Okay. And it's something that we need. But if you don't understand this, let me tell it to you plain. If you have a brain, you have biases. Mm-hmm. That's why you want to bring other people together, and they have a different bias than you, to take a look at it and go, yeah, this seems biased to me, and to state that plainly, and then work through the biases. Because if we go back before this nonsensical research that we have right now, somebody tried something and it worked, they told their friend about it. Their doctor got wind of it. Cannabis has been used for thousands of years to treat legitimate medical conditions. It also got you high, made you feel good. Mm-hmm. This was not rocket science. It's only in this modern era when there's an agenda. We do not want anybody to say anything positive about weed, so therefore, if you do, we're going to take away your funding and academically isolate you. Okay? That's what we've been seeing.
Yep.
And Nate, you understand this. If you bring 5 scientists together, they're not going to agree on everything. But between the 5 or 10 of them, they're going to see things in this research that are problematic, things that need more research. And this is why double-blind testing is helpful, so that the results are there. No one can say there's a bias somewhere. Mm-hmm. Here's the result. We just don't have that in America because we are so segregated now in our bubbles. And the bubbles are confirmation bias to a degree that psychiatrists are having a difficult time understanding how people live in these goddamn bubbles. You can't break through them. And that's part of research. When the governments control this and the narrative, we don't want this to look good, that's what you get. It doesn't look good.
You're right, Dale. The only bias I have in my entire body is unbiased.
Oh, bullshit. So you should go see a therapist about that, dude.
Just saying. I just look at facts and truth. And a lot of people can't handle the truth. It's just like
grandeur.
it's the truth, Dale. It's the truth. I specialize in truth. It's what we do over here. You know what I mean? We're here to bring truth to the people. We to the people. All that good stuff. You know what I mean?
Truth in a bubble is not necessarily somebody else's truth. So,
well, just because everyone has the right to be wrong, Dale, but I'm just never wrong.
illusions of grandeur. See somebody about that, dude. There's help available.
Stone, what do you think about this? The spin factor. I find it. You know, I'm not surprised by this, and this is how a lot of the prohibitionist rhetoric has been going for a number of years, and this is why as Dale pointed out, the federal government hasn't been able to produce any studies that don't prove any medical efficacy of cannabis. Only allowed to do fun studies that show a clear bias against cannabis and helping for patients or anyone that might gain access from it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Cannabis gets graded on a curve that no other medicine does. You know, it's always going to be that way until the.
You know who has an unbiased against this? Greatest president in American history, because he's the one that's moving it to Schedule 3. Just saying. Just
dangling
saying.
a carrot, my friend. This is just another carrot dangling moment.
I don't know about all that. But on that, I have one final story for you guys that is unbiased, and it's out of the Sleepy Hollow slums of Delaware. You see what I did there, Nate? Sleepy Hollow. You know what I mean? Biden's home state. That's right. Because the Delaware Senate votes to override the governor's veto of a bill limiting county restrictions on the marijuana businesses, you guys. That's right. The Delaware Senate voted today to override Governor Matt Meyer's August 28 veto of Senate Bill 75, which would limit the ability of Delaware counties to restrict marijuana businesses. SB 75 previously passed the House by a 25-13 vote and a Senate by a 13-8 margin. The measure was written to clarify how local governments regulate cannabis establishments following Delaware's legalization of adult use cannabis, specifically by preventing counties from using zoning ordinances to effectively block state licensed operators. Under the bill, compassion centers holding conversion licenses must be allowed to operate as retail stores even if they fall under non-conforming use standards. Counties would also be blocked from denying building permits to marijuana facilities if their plans comply with existing zoning requirements. The legislation further sets minimum hours of operation for retailers and prohibits counties from banning indoor cultivation facilities in agricultural or industrial zones, and local governments would retain limited authority to prohibit stores, but only if they are located within a half mile of another shop or within 500 feet of sensitive sites such as schools, child care centers, parks, treatment facilities, churches, or libraries. And in vetoing the measure last summer, Meyer said the proposal removed too much authority from local communities despite his support for a regulated adult use marijuana system. In a quote, "I support building a well-regulated adult use cannabis market that works statewide. That way, the way to do that is to work with our counties as partners, not by stripping communities of their voice in where these stores belong," Meyer said at the time. He also said revenue sharing with local governments should be considered as the state implements its cannabis market, and SB 75 would override local judgment on the location and operation of cannabis establishments. And let's move forward together, respecting local zoning and exploring revenue sharing to offset local costs, so this market succeeds and earns public trust in all three counties. But today's override means SB 75 will move to the Assembly, and if the Assembly also vetoes to override the veto, it would take effect in 30 days. Wow! Sounds like this legislature is actually doing some things for the people by removing local control, something we need to do here in California, Dale.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Locals have screwed this thing up so badly.
Exactly.
It's right there with a 15% excise tax, which we can't pay.
Yep.
I've been screaming this for a long time. I mean, there are long-standing issues between state control and local control that go way back in California to the 1870s. But right now, we have given locals the ability to prohibit within their jurisdiction. And they do allow it to pass their own local rules, regulations, local taxes.
Yep.
And you start adding this stuff up, it's like, this was never intended to work. was like they thought this was a casino and we're going to be able to hit the ATM machine whenever we want. And at this point, I tell people the metaphor is this is the cash cow that just came out of Dachau.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have no more milk. It's skinny as hell. It's about to die. Can we stop this? And I hope they do override this because it's a message that needs to be sent. California alcohol is controlled centrally through the state government. Taxes are low, and I argue this should be treated a lot like alcohol. The tax is low, make it available everywhere. You'll get your tax money through sales taxes because people are going to want to buy it.
Yep.
Okay. And stop trying to fund every pet project in the state off the backs of this. That's one of the big problems we have. Everybody's got their hand out. Now they feel entitled to keep getting money from our industry.
Yeah.
They don't give two shits. The industry dies. That's where I just stop being patient with these local jurisdictions. They don't give a shit. They don't care. If they allow it, they make it as hard as possible to do it. Okay? And they need to get out of the way and lower these damn taxes and green light this all across California, the entire state. Let it be everywhere. Okay? Stop getting in the way. If you can't run a business, you fail. You can, you got weed available.
Yep.
Let's move on from there.
Fair enough. Removing local control. It's a good thing, Stone. It's a great thing.
Local control shouldn't mean local veto power after the voters already said yes.
Exactly.
Delaware Senate just reminded the counties that they don't get to legalize cannabis and then zone it out of existence. So.
Exactly right. This is a good thing. This is weed for the people right here, Stone. That's what it's all about.
Weed for the people.
Yes, that's right. I see how you did it with that Texas accent right there. Yeah, Texas accent finally came out.
Weed for the people. Get out of here.
Oh man, any final thoughts, Nate, before we close out?
You know, it's bittersweet. It's I wish, our governance could have done a job like what we're seeing other places do, rather than screwing the pooch. It's all I can say is I hate to make it about me, but about me and a lot of my friends who got so damaged by this industry here in California. It's so many examples just flying up your nose of why it didn't need to be like this. And yeah, it's, what do you even say? You'll hear me muse on how things could have been in a sliding doors type of moment otherwise. Other than that, I want to say long-term, there's still room for optimism.
Well, congratulations, Delaware. I hope your assembly and Senate push this over the finish line, and we're reporting on a story announcing this override has taken full effect. And shout out to good representatives that represent the people's will and execute what the people want. I guess there are still some out there, Stone Slade. And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high at noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and congratulations on the Planet 13 takeover in Santa Ana. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners Elias and Gabriel. They're somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. Patented and trademarked.